Yeah. So anyway, my first question is, I'm in Luke 9, and I think it's chapter 29. I forgot my note. I was going to call you today. And when Jesus said to the crowd, "You must take up your cross and follow me," it seems to me like that's almost a prophecy of what was going to happen to him in terms of his death and the beginning of Christianity. How is your view on that?
Well, you make a good point, and that is that it's not obvious that he was talking about his own cross. Most people just assume when he says take up your cross that was in the context of everyone knowing that he was to die on a cross and they needed to do the same. But in fact, they didn't know at that point. The disciples did not yet know he was going to die on a cross, and nobody did except Jesus. So when he said, "You need to take up your cross and follow me," he obviously was not, at least not, they were not conscious of the fact that he was making a reference to himself dying on a cross or that he would carry a cross. But you're right, taking up a cross to follow him suggests that he's going to take up a cross and walk with it. And so if you're going to follow him, you carry one too. But he wasn't revealing quite that much at the time about his own situation. But it could be seen as a subtle prophecy. I don't think they would have been expected to pick up on it at this point, but they, in retrospect, they might well have. Of course, to take up the... Go ahead.
Yeah. Is that a direct translation from the original Greek Bible, or was that something that they inserted and maybe not used the same wording?
No, that's directly from the Greek manuscripts. It's not an interpolation or anything like that. But taking up a cross is something that not only Jesus did, but many criminals did. The Romans typically crucified people on crosses who offended them, and it was the most excruciating of all ways to die. So it was extreme cruelty. But what Jesus said to do, he didn't even say be crucified. He said take up your cross, which has to do with lifting it up on your shoulder and carrying it, which is what...
find it very interesting that he used that term, when no one knew exactly what was going to happen to him.
Yeah, it is
interesting. I just found it very interesting. I looked at that and went, wow, that's almost a prophecy that he's giving, and how Christianity is going to base the whole thing on the cross, because of his death on the cross, obviously.
Yeah, well, I mean, that happens sometimes in Jesus' teaching. For example, in John 2, when he said, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I'll raise it up again." They didn't know he was talking about his death and resurrection, his body, but it says afterward they remembered this, So perhaps in this case, afterward they remembered this statement and thought, wow, he was referring to what was going to happen to him.